Penguin Random House Audio presents A Handful of Earth, a Handful of Sky. The World of Octavia E. Butler by Lynell George. Read for you by Adenrele Ojo. Introduction. What good is thinking and creating and imagining and getting off the beaten tracks, off the narrow footpaths of what everybody is saying and doing, whoever everybody happens to be this year? Science fiction is a handful of earth and a handful of sky and everything around and between. Octavia E. Butler. Question: who is Octavia Butler? Answer: I want to be someone I've never been before. Some days it had to feel like moonscape or the outer edges of some yet-to-be-understood terra incognita. Octavia E. Butler never asked to be here, may not have picked it if she had had the druthers, but she made do. Pasadena, crown of the valley, Earth. How did she, I've come to wonder, endure the atmosphere, the picket fences, the rolling manicured lawns, the uniformity, the predictability, the breezy conviviality? What was it like, Octavia, to feel earthbound? People think they know Pasadena because of television's establishing shots. The football games, the annual Tournament of Roses parade, and that famous turn at Colorado and Orange Grove boulevards, where the extravagant flora-draped floats lurch by for their close-up. All of it backdropped by a startlingly bright blue January sky. She knows the world is conversant in this perception. Pasadena, hometown Pasadena, as she herself once quipped, where everyone is rich, right? Of course. People used to tell me this all the time. Pasadena, she was well familiar, has many guises and many faces. The ones the world sees, the others you come to know once you navigate it for yourself. The city appears to be a simple-to-parse grid, except for an unexpected and somewhat dramatic direction shift, at which point Orange Grove Boulevard bends from south to north to west to east, leaning eastward where it crosses Fair Oaks Avenue. Here at this compass point, Orange Grove and Fair Oaks, just a few walkable blocks north of the sparkling upscale tourist destination, Old Pasadena, with its Tiffany outpost and Apple store, both of which would most likely surprise even the sibylline Octavia. You cross into a determinately working-class stretch. It's abuzz with heavy daylight hours foot traffic, pedestrians on the stroll, school children and uniformed adults, line cooks, doctors' assistants, mechanics, daydreaming or phone scrolling, waiting for buses. Sometimes you might glimpse a flock of bright parasols, shielding women like Octavia's now long-gone mother, who do day work from the harsh sun. Parked beneath the shade of magnolia trees, street vendors sell fresh melons and mangoes, some dusted with ground cayenne peppers. Continuing north on Fair Oaks, the landscape is still, at this writing, a not-yet gentrified collection of mini-malls that house laundromats and Louisiana chicken and fish joints that advertise, "You buy, we fry." Churches abound, all manner of denominations and sizes. Some are freestanding edifices, others are storefronts bearing grandiloquent names. Tricked-out bicycles whiz by convalescent homes, and locked-tight former beauty shops, their frosted hand-painted signage still evident. The char of fast-food burgers and taco trucks spice the air. This western spine of northwest Pasadena, just east of the famous Rose Bowl Stadium, is where Octavia, a native of Pasadena, spent some of her earliest years struggling under the weight of expectations, or the lack of them, in Southern California, where normal, like the classrooms and work that teachers tried to coax out of her, felt like a prison. To begin to fully grasp Octavia Butler is to sink into the worlds from which she came. Southern California, the landscape, the people, the yearnings, the lean years' struggle, and all of the other necessary bits and pieces that it took for her to collage together a public self. Octavia Estelle Butler, science fiction writer, MacArthur genius and visionary, spent incalculable hours in the service of putting words on the page, stumbling onto a thread of inquiry, letting ideas germinate, then sail around her imagination. She dreamt of alternative habitats and fleshed out heretofore unseen characters, giving them purpose, language, and agency. Equally, if not more important, however, was Butler's time and attention to crafting her most complex and unique creation, her life. Born in Pasadena in 1947, raised by a widowed single mother who worked for years as a domestic, Butler could not have begun her journey farther from her intended destination. Known among friends and family as Estelle, Estella, or Junie, she was an introspective and intuitive little girl. A voracious reader and sensitive observer, Butler lived deeply and vividly in her imagination. I had been making up stories and telling them to myself since I was 5 or 6, she often recalled in interviews. Because my mother, in an effort to make me read, refused to tell them to me, I did read. We were lucky enough not to be able to afford a television at the time, so I read everything I could find, from my grandmother's California Farmer to some interesting pornography I found in someone's trash. But until I began writing my own stories, I never found quite what I was looking for. In desperation, I made up my own. It was the beginning of what would be a daily, lifelong relationship with putting words on a page and, at the same time, creating her own time and space within which to exist, an alternative place to be and thrive. Her road into a deeply desired writing life was a labyrinth of twists, dead ends, trapdoors, and blocks, both on the page and in her day-to-day pursuits. As a Southern California native, I had no idea of just how close I lived to, and how frequently I intersected with, her former life here in the San Gabriel Valley until I began working in the Octavia E. Butler archive at the Huntington Library in San Marino, California, just 3.8 miles from Butler's childhood homes. The locales are universes apart. In her old neighborhood of North Pasadena, there are no plaques or honorary pocket parks named in her honor. Nothing that tells us that this was the soil of inspiration. This isn't to say that there isn't a deep and enduring love for Butler that still exists in this corner of Pasadena, amid the compact cottages and well-tended California bungalows. One of her former childhood schools has recently named its library in her honor. Residents and old friends keep her alive in stories. She was a fixture on the landscape, waiting for buses beneath a canopy of sycamore trees, taking her brisk early morning hike up Lake Avenue, out of Pasadena into Altadena, tipping toward the majestic outline of the San Gabriels. Those mountains on a clear day look like a paper backdrop, a view you might, if you're not careful, push your hand through. In 2015, I was commissioned by Julia Meltzer to create a text, a posthumous interview, for the LA-based arts nonprofit Clock Shop for a major retrospective of Butler's work and legacy. The project, Radio Imagination, Artists and Writers in the Archives of Octavia E. Butler, assembled a provocative mix of practitioners from various disciplines. We sank ourselves into it, let inspiration guide us. The archive is vast and, frankly, imposing. More than 300 boxes and thousands of personal items drawn from decades of Butler's personal files. It's easy to find yourself pulled down one or another unexpected rabbit hole. approaching.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?